Hello, I'm Coco Good, Director of Communications and Marketing with the City of McKinney. Happy to have with me City Manager Paul Grimes today, giving us an update on all things McKinney.
We'll do our best.
So 2017 is definitely off to a strong start. I know the council recently had a strategic retreat. Talk to me about their priorities for the coming year.
I will. First, we are off to a great start. We had a record year last year in 2016 with respect to number of permits issued. We set a record. I think we had 2,400 plus housing permits, which is remarkable in its own right. And this year, the month of February alone, we issued 450 lot permits approximately. So on that pace, we will have another record-setting year in 2017. So that's great, but it's very busy. With respect to strategic planning, in January, the council had their annual strategic planning retreat. And really what they do, that's an opportunity for them to reaffirm their policy priorities. What are the things that they're going to focus on? And you can actually go to our website or go to the council chambers and you will see what those priorities are. There are 6 of them. Basically, if I can remember all of them, cite all of them for you, but there's making sure we have a financially sound government. So we're a AAA rated community. We want to stay there. We want to make sure that we're making financial decisions that are in the best interest of the community and that we are sort of embracing the best practices, financial management. Secondly, airport development. We want to leverage the airport. The airport we think is a terrific asset here in Collin County. We want to continue to grow and develop the airport. There's a significant amount of impact for the community, schools in particular, with property tax revenues that are tied to the airport. We get property tax revenue for the aircraft that are based there. And a lot of folks don't know that. And so when you have a $20 million aircraft, that's a significant amount of property tax revenue that goes, about 60% of that goes to the school district. So that helps us. Plus they have some great unique aviation program that is with the MISD. So we're very proud of that. So we want to continue to build on that airport. There's quality of life. McKinney is known for its quality of life, as we all know, and we want to continue to build on that. So we're going to continue to emphasize that. A secure and safe community. That's one of the foundational things we do in local government is provide public safety for the community, and the council wants to keep that as a point of emphasis. So we will continue to do so. We talked about the strategic and economic growth. That was the 5th one. That is, we want to continue to make strategic economic decisions on behalf of the community. And I'll get into a couple of those in a minute. And then the last one, I'm trying to remember right offhand, is operational excellence. So we want to make sure that organizationally we are as operationally efficient as possible. That's a long-term prospect because you got to make sure you're hiring the right talent, that we're training our employees, we're equipping them with the right tools and software programs, et cetera, so that we're as efficient as possible. And that's always a work in progress. But those are the 6 priorities that the council has set for staff and for the community for that matter. Now our job is to put some meat to the bones. Well, what do you mean by those 6 things? So for strategic and economic growth, for example, there's a Gateway project. The Gateway project is the commercial development at the corner at the intersection of 75 and the Sam Rayburn Tollway. And it's a highly visible area. It is a gateway into McKinney, thus the name. And we are currently in the process of negotiating with a very high quality developer to begin developing that Gateway project beyond what is already there. Right now it's the Sheraton, Emerson, and Collin College has their higher education center there. And but there's an awful lot of land, and we want to continue to develop that into a nice commercial gateway project. That's an example of strategic economic growth. There are some other projects that are in the works that we're focusing on, all again to make sure we anchor McKinney economically and we diversify enough so they're not putting all our eggs in one basket economically. So whether it's on an industrial manufacturing side, helping our existing businesses continue to grow and expand, even international economic development where we're encouraging foreign direct investment into McKinney, which is a good thing. So that's an example. So what we're doing now as staff is finalizing or putting together sort of what do we need to do at the departmental level to make sure we're aligned with those 6 priorities that the City Council sets for us. And then we establish a set of measures, indicators, performance indicators, data indicators, if we're hitting those indicators, if we're achieving these things, those are indicators that we're in alignment, that we're doing the things that the council is asking us to do. And that is really how you make sure that your policy-making folks, your elected officials who set the direction for the community, that we're actually pulling in that direction by having that strategic plan and those performance indicators to make sure the alignment is there.
Perfect, and it all ties together. So we know there's a city council election coming up in May. New mayor will be coming on board, three or four new council members.
Right.
Talk to us about how that will impact operations over the next year.
Well, so the good news here in McKinney is that McKinney is a council manager form of government, is they have the professional staff to continue to push on the flywheel. That means we keep things moving, keep pushing the flywheel, keep getting things done. The council's job is to set policy direction. So insofar as new members of the city council want to change direction or want to make adjustments to those policy priorities, that is absolutely within their right, of course, and that's what they do. Our job is to make sure we pedal and get them where they want to go. And so there will be a lot of work in making sure that the new council members are onboarded, that we are apprising them of all the different initiatives going on in McKinney from all the different operational areas. So it won't be one meeting for 2 hours. It'll be probably a series, almost a curriculum, explaining and educating our new council members on all the different issues and initiatives going on citywide so that they're informed to make good informed policy choices. That's how it works. We want informed policymakers making informed policy choices so that we know where we're going and how to get them there. Perfect.
We've talked a little bit about how all these different strategic elements tie together and the leadership and the policymakers and the staff sort of pedaling the wheels.
That's right.
We're in the middle of the budget process also right now. So talk to us about that process a little bit and how that will tie in as well.
Well, I promise you there's a lot of pedaling.
Yes.
So the budget process is, there are really 3 basic documents that are adopted by a city council that are formal communication documents. And what I mean by that is that's how the council communicates to the community, their priorities, and how they communicate to staff, their priorities. And so one of them is the budget, right? The budget is ultimately a communication document that tells the community, here's our priorities as a community and how we're going to spend our resources. The other one is a comprehensive plan, and that's how we're going to grow when we grow up as a community. And then the third one is a strategic plan, right? Those are very formalized documents to kind of communicate with the community and staff where we're going. So the budget is quite important because we do it every year. We have to have a balanced budget, and we have to take into consideration all the different factors that are occurring. So whether it's economically, the economy is strong right now, that's good. But you hear there's a lot of discussion about property taxes. We're very mindful of that. I hear that about every day, that we need to balance, all the service needs of our community. We are a very high service community, and I think people come here because of our services, and you have to pay for those services. But you got to balance that with the property tax, burden that people have to shoulder in getting those services delivered. We are going to change our budget process a little bit this year. We're going to engage the public a little earlier. I think we're having a public hearing on April 18th, which will allow the public to weigh in on their views and priorities, so they will inform the council and staff. We will meet with our council members earlier in terms of, I call them advanced budget communication meetings, where we get an idea of what are they hearing, what are their priorities, so that when we fashion a budget and when we propose a budget of staff in the late summer to the city council, we will at least be more informed of the public. Something else we're pretty familiar, or we're excited about, and you're familiar with, is we have our virtual town hall, which is offered to us by Peak Democracy, which is a vendor, but our virtual town hall, we have a tool to allow the public to allow them to get engaged online on what are, if you had this much money, where would you put those priorities? And it's kind of a fun exercise to get folks familiar with. By the way, it's not that easy because there are lots of priorities. It's a simple tool, it's kind of a simplified version, but I do think that's kind of a fun way to engage the public in understanding the ebb and flow and the give and take involved in budget making.
Great. You talked about property taxes. Talk to us a little bit about State Senate Bill 2 and what happens if that passes.
So Senate Bill 2 is one of a number of initiatives we're seeing at the state legislature to diminish the decision-making authority at the local level. Texas has long been a state that pushes decision-making down to the local level. We get no revenue from the state. There is no income tax in Texas, as we all know, which I think is a great thing. But in most states, you get some income tax sharing from the state. We get none. But the trade-off was, communities have to kind of live off the land, and they allow us to, as home rule communities, to make that decision-making, push the decision-making at the local level and kind of determine our own future, chart our own course. But there are some initiatives at the state level to handcuff the communities a little bit, and SB 2 is an effort to, it's called a property tax reform, but effectively it arbitrarily reduces the amount, what they call a rollback rate, reduces the amount of property taxes that could be increased by a local community in any year without having a mandatory election. Well, it sounds great, and for most people they would say, yeah, sure, what's wrong with that? We don't like to pay taxes, but we all know we have to pay taxes to get the services. The problem is for communities like ours that are growing and we get no revenues from the state, and the state's not funding the schools like they're supposed to. The state is not meeting their public education funding requirements. That's 60% of your tax bill. So what will happen is the schools are going to have to raise the property tax levy to make up that difference. Everybody sees that on their tax bill, and then they take their pitchforks to City Hall. But it's not City Hall that's the issue, and it's not the school's issue. The best way the state can give a property tax relief to our residents is to fund public education at a higher level. And there are some folks in the state legislature that understand that. But SB 2 is going to be a challenge for us because all of this deliberation is occurring now while we're in the process of preparing a budget. So we will have to have contingency plans for if SB 2 passes and whatever that rollback rate limit is set at, we'll have to make adjustments accordingly. So we'll be going into the budget with a little bit of uncertainty, and we'll have to have some contingency on what we do operationally to make up for any lost revenue as a result of this bill.
Gotcha. Having said that, there's a lot of development going on in McKinney. It seems everywhere you turn, you're seeing construction. You told us a little bit about Gateway.
Yes.
Tell us about the new parking garage that's coming downtown.
So if anybody's come downtown for a special event, they know that parking can be a bit of a challenge. There are an awful lot of public spaces in the downtown area, but what people typically want is convenience. They want to be able to park somewhere in close proximity to the town square when they come there for a special event. And our merchants are telling us, boy, we sure need more parking. And we're estimating, if we had 1,500 covered parking spaces, garage spaces, that would make a big, big impact on the parking environment downtown, and therefore encourage more people to come visit, and obviously visit and spend their money, et cetera. So the first parking garage is actually being constructed now as we speak. It's part of the 9-acre development in the Chestnut Square area. And there are a couple hundred spaces that are public parking spaces that will be available when that project is done, and that's going to be around the first quarter of 2018. The second one was just approved this past week by the City Council, and that is a public-private partnership with a landowner, a business landowner in the downtown area off of Virginia Street, just west of McDonald, Highway 5. And that is a parking deck that they will build. It's kind of a build to suit. They'll build the parking deck. We will lease it and then end up purchasing it. It'll be a lease purchase agreement. And that's how we can leverage the private sector to come up with a solution on getting some additional parking. That would be the second parking deck. That's going to be approximately 310 public parking spaces. We have two more in the pipeline. The council has given us authority to start feasibility analysis for two things. One is a parking deck where the water tower parcel is, to convert that in the coming years to a parking facility, and then ultimately a new city hall, which will have a large parking structure attached or associated with it, which would also be a significant number of parking spaces. So suddenly, after a few years, we have 4 parking garages where today we have none, and that will have a very big impact, and I'm pleased that the council is moving forward on recognizing that this is an issue and giving us the tools to start moving that forward. But it is a process. You have to kind of look at it as a hose with water flowing through it. There's the one that's being built now, that's the water coming out of the hose. There's some others further down the hose that are in the process and making their way through.
And some early construction pain for some long-term gain, hopefully.
That's right,
yes.
And there is construction. It's good stuff. They're growing pains. We have the 9-acre development going on that has taken some parking offline. And we're certainly sensitive to that, and we're listening to our merchants, and we're trying to find ways to provide some relief to help with that. But these are good problems to have because these are exciting developments occurring in the downtown area.
Right. So you've got downtown parking, the 9-acre mixed-use development, and we've also got the Apex Center that's now open.
Yes.
How's that
We're very
going?
excited about that. It opened on March 1st. That is a 80,000 square foot community recreational center with an outdoor water park associated or tied with it. You know, it's a terrific facility. If you haven't been there yet, we certainly want folks to go and try it out. They have basketball courts, they have the weight facility, they have a wonderful indoor aquatic center, pool and lap pool, as well as recreational pool. And you know, our staff are adjusting. It's an adjustment, as you can imagine. Running a fitness or a recreational center like that is a different type of operation. So our folks are adjusting to sort of the rhythm of running those types of facilities. So we'd ask for folks to be patient as we work through it. But it's a great facility, a great asset for the community, located right next to PSA. So I'm there a lot. I'm at both facilities a lot, so you can walk from one to the other, as well as the ball field. So it really is a great asset for the community.
Wow,
We're
that's
excited
great.
about it.
That's a huge achievement.
Sure is.
We could go on and on. There's
could.
so much going on.
We
This
could.
is just a little snippet. So thank you for being with us today, and we'll bring you back soon for another update.
Well, thank you. Pleasure to be here.
All right, thanks.